All right, here are my audience members, and then I've got 2 on FaceTime. All right, here you go. Okay. Imagine being told that there's a medication that can save your life, but you can't afford it. Without this medication, your chances of survival are low. Thousands of Americans face this reality every year, and the price of life-saving drugs continuously rises. According to a 2023 article by Allison Swank in the DuQuoincy Law Review, over the past decade, the cost of insulin has grown dramatically, rising more than 100% by 2012. Today, I will discuss why pricing life-saving drugs at an unaffordable level is unethical and how this practice prioritizes profit over human life. I chose this topic because I have personally seen how difficult it can be to afford necessary prescriptions, and through my research, I have learned how widespread and detrimental this problem is. Whether you know someone or are directly impacted, the cost of medicine affects people's ability to survive and live healthy lives. I hope to persuade my audience that it is unethical for pharmaceutical companies to set life-saving drug prices so high that many people cannot access them. I will focus on 3 main points. First, I will explain how drug prices have become so unaffordable. Next, I will discuss why this practice is unethical. Finally, I will share ways we can support ethical access to medication. Now that I've introduced the problem, let's look at how drug prices became so high in the first place. The rising cost of life-saving drugs is mostly being driven by a lack of regulation and corporate greed. According to authors Kesselheim, Avorn, and Saraparty, in a 2016 article from the Journal of the American Medical Association, the United States spends far more on prescription drugs than any other country, mainly because manufacturers can set prices without any government regulation. Per the JAMA article, in 2013 per capita, spending on prescription drugs was $858 compared with an average of $400 to 19 other industrialized nations. In the US, pharmaceutical companies can price their drugs at any price that the market can handle, even if many consumers cannot afford them. Greed has been a large part of drug corporations' motives to raise prices. Rather than lowering consumer costs for the betterment of society, executives continue to grow their wealth and maximize profits. For example, insulin has tripled in the past decade, even though insulin has existed for 100 years. Over this period, the cost of production has decreased, but the prices of insulin continue to rise. This is a clear example of companies putting profit over their livelihood in humans. Understanding how prices became inflated helps us see why this practice is unethical. Pricing life-saving drugs at unaffordable levels is not just wrong, but unethical. Humans deserve justice and fairness, whether they have wealth or not. This practice violates the basic human right to access healthcare necessary for survival. Allison Swank argues in the 2023 DuQuoincy Law Review that the current pricing system allows pharmaceutical companies to profit from people's illnesses. When there are people benefiting from others struggling, it's obvious that there's a clear ethical problem going on. A 2015 article released by Cambridge University Press explains life-saving drugs as a priceless good. You can't simply put a price on something that is necessary for living. It is immoral for companies to allow people to die or suffer simply because they cannot afford medicine that exists just to save lives. Now that we have seen examples of unethical actions being taken by pharmaceutical companies, we can consider what can be done to make drug pricing fair and reasonable. As a society, we can take steps to promote ethical and affordable access to medicine. Consumers can advocate for policy reform and support pharmaceutical efforts that prioritize patient access over profit. For example, nonprofit organizations such as Doctors Without Borders and Needy Meds work to supply life-saving medications across the U.S. and around the world for little to no cost. If we can continue to support organizations like these and push for further reform, we can continue towards a society where everyone has access to life-saving medication. Now that we've explored the problem, its ethical weight, and a potential solution, let's review. Throughout this speech, we have seen that high life-saving drug prices are not just an economical issue, but a moral issue. Driven by corporate greed and lack of government regulation, prices have continued to rise. This practice is unethical because it values profit over human life, but there is hope. We can create change by supporting nonprofits and advocacy. No one should have to choose between financial stability and survival. Access to life-saving drugs is a basic human right, not a pawn for pharmaceutical companies. Thank you so much. All right, if I can get another wave from my viewers, thank you. All right.